self-control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. The claws in my heart, I can't let go, I'm breaking apart, controlling me, controlling me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm Brent Thomas, your host, and we are underway here. So hope you're having a great day. It's Thursday, so what could be wrong, right? Because tomorrow's Friday. And everything is wonderful on Friday. Well, at least a little more wonderful anyway. So I hope you're all ready because it's time for bed. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, I did sing the song, Travis. I wrote it and sang it. I actually wrote that probably in about 2014 or 2015. But I could still sing it now. Hasn't been that long. But yeah, that song's called Feline that you guys heard on the intro. And that is my song. I wrote it a long time ago. But I just thought, when I started doing the show, we used to use a lot of just normal music that you find on Spotify or iTunes or wherever. But then we started playing on YouTube, and of course that formula doesn't work so well anymore because you get copyright strikes, and so I was like, I don't want to try to wrestle and hassle and try to get permission from whoever the publishers would be for all the different music that we use, and I was like, well, I can use my own. So every music that you hear on the Paranormal Portal is something that I've written. So I hope you enjoy them. It wasn't that I was really out to showcase my music. It was just that I didn't want to deal with everyone else's assholes. So I thought, well, it's cool. I think my music's okay, and I hope you guys agree. And if you don't, I apologize. But it was just more of a necessity than anything. So. But I'm glad, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from the songs and stuff, so it's really cool. Thank you guys for that. That means the world. Music is another passion of mine. I wish I had more time to do more of it, but I try to play a little bit when I can. But yeah, anyway, so enough of the music. That's not what the show's about. But anyway, this is the Bedtime Stories, ladies and gentlemen. And we had a great show last night. Of course, we missed Don. It was too bad that he couldn't be here. And it's, the Mayhem shows are always, it was the first one I've ever tried to do alone. And it turned out okay. Of course, it's always better when I have Don to bounce things off of. But last night had some great participation. Mr. Wes Germer called in, and it was a fantastic uh, conversation, and it was really neat to see a little bit behind the scenes. He's a great storyteller, and I love to hear those stories of how so many things happened back in the day and stuff. And and he beat the hell out of Bob Gimlin, which poor Bob. And poor Wes, for that matter, because he had no idea Bob was injured. So it was a great story, though. And if you missed it, definitely check out last night's episode. It's a bite size, or a bite, something about Paranormal Mayhem, bite size chunk or helping or serving of Paranormal Mayhem. I forgot what I named it now, but anyway, it was a great show. And then after that, Mr. Duke Sullivan called in, and we had a great discussion as well. And not only that, but Mr. Tony Merkel was lurking in the chat room. So it was a really cool night last night. And of course, all of you here were here as well, and you guys are the heartbeat of the portal. I mean, you guys are the ones that are always with us and making it amazing. Thank you, Gemini. I appreciate that. Gemini said she listened to it, so I'm glad you guys liked it. And hello to Lady and Don. Don, I see you peeking into the chat room. So good to see you, brother, and I'll be looking forward to having you back on Saturday. Quickly, though, tomorrow I'll have Jerry Klein on, and he's a Bigfoot researcher, and I'm really excited to have him on because Jerry's just kind of a salt-of-the-earth kind of guy, and he's really, really just a no-nonsense person, but he's had some amazing encounters, and he's going to be on the show tomorrow night to share those with all of y'all. And special thanks to Duke Sullivan for helping me line up that interview. Duke and Jerry are friends, and Duke reached out to him on our behalf and helped to line that up. So I really appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much for making that happen. That was really cool. So, no, you've not been a horrible mod, Diana. You're awesome. You and Lady and Julia are amazing mods. I couldn't be happier with you guys. But, it's just real life happens, so you can only be here when you can be here. So, anyway, I just had to pull cat hair off of my microphone. Otherwise, it goes in my nose as I'm talking and absolutely drives me bonkers. So, this is the Bedtime Stories, and wouldn't you know it, I got some bedtime stories for you guys. So, I hope you guys are ready. Let's get on the ball here. Wonder where that saying came from. This is how my mind works, right? It's just like, on the ball. Where the hell did that come from? Who came up with that saying? What does that mean? What's the story behind that? All right, let me pull in because I've been outside helping the Mrs. Portal with the yard work today, so which was cool. I like the fresh air and the sun felt great, but I'm all stuffy and my eyes are like weepy. So, all right, the first story tonight, ladies and gentlemen, comes out of Washington. Oh, and the phones are open, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in. And if you do call in, if you're sitting out there and you're calling in, let Julia, Diana, or Lady Death know that you're calling me, because as I kind of got tunnel vision when I'm reading these stories, and I got the call board way over here, and so I may not actually glance at it. I'm trying to improve, but they can certainly message me directly and say, hey, there's a call waiting. So let them know in chat that you're calling in, and that'll help me get to you quicker. So let's go to Washington and find out what's going on in Washington State, which is right next door. So one night, myself and 4 of my friends got together to play Ouija. So that first sentence says it all. You don't play Ouija. It's not. You're not playing a game. It's not like Monopoly. It's not a board game. No matter what it's marketed as, it's not a board game. You might as well say we were sitting around trying to summon spirits, because that's what Ouija is. That's a funny first sentence, and that's going to set up the story for a horrible rest of the story for these people. Excuse me. First, we went to an unfinished house. With all the energy, the pointer was moving so fast it was scraping the board. Whomever we talked to that night was a very nice man, and we had to leave but asked if we could continue talking to him later. Well, he agreed, but that didn't happen. We decided to play in a garage, and we asked who was there, and they didn't give a name. We asked for age, sex, and he said male, 40. And we asked, why are you talking to us? And he replied, young. Ooh, that's creepy. At this point, we could all feel very bad vibe. So we asked, do you want to kill us? And he replied, yes. And we said, well, who? And the pointer slowly spelled A-L-L. We said, okay, we're out of here. Stupidly, he asked, why? And we said, because you want to hurt us. And then said goodbye. Later, me and one other girl made her room pitch black and asked, is anyone there? No reply. Then something grabbed my leg under the blanket. I screamed, bloody murder. And after lighting the room and calming down, my friend got a sharp pain in her shoulder, and it continued down her arm and across her forehead, then to her ankle. And she kept saying, I feel weird. She laid down and her eyes started to roll back into her head, and they would shut and she would sharply flinch. She continued to do so, barely saying anything. And I was very worried, but I didn't know what to do, and I asked her, is there anything I can do for you? And she replied, there is nothing you can do, in a very creepy tone. Then one more time she flinched at me, but something about it wasn't right, and I screamed very loudly again. When I screamed, whatever was inside of her left. She sat up and covered her ears, not knowing what had just happened. We were so scared we just sat and cried. At 4 a.m. we sat there, wanting to sleep so bad, but we were too afraid to. We ask ourselves to this day, what was in that room? Okay, so if you're new to the show, I'm going to get on my pendulum or on my soapbox here, on my, what the hell is it? Podium. Sorry, I said pendulum. I'm going to get on my podium here for a second and talk about Ouija boards, okay? There's a lot of information out there about Ouija boards, but there's a lot of bad information out there about Ouija boards. And I'm not talking about those people that say, oh, they're evil. Well, they're not. They're really not. But what they are is they are a form of channel, and it's like a very rudimentary, basic form of channeling. And what it is when you're using a Ouija board, you're blindly saying, come through me or come through us and talk to us through this board. So you are becoming a blind channel. Usually when experienced mediums channel, they have a very specific routine in how they prepare for this other energy to come through them. And I'm not talking about psychic readings. I'm talking about channeling, where people bring the spirits through them, and that's a very specific kind of mediumship. But they don't just sit down and say, does anyone want to talk, and then just let whatever wants to come through. They are very specific. It's very focused. It's very hopefully precise, and they take a lot of steps to protect themselves through saging, through crystals, through ritual of some form to cleanse their environment and to keep it free of negative energies. Now, when you get a room full of teenagers and a Ouija board, there's no preparation done at all. It's like, let's get this out and see if we can contact somebody, and whether it's a deceased grandfather or whatever. That may be their intention, and they may very well be intending to speak to a loved one, but they don't understand the process. They don't understand and may not have the ability to focus to that extent to bring a specific spirit through. However, what will happen, or what may happen, or what can happen, is that they basically are opening up an energetic channel, and whatever the hell's around may decide it wants to talk. Now, 90% of the time people use Ouija boards, or 99% of the time, in situations like this, and nothing happens. It's just a bunch of silliness, and people laugh and spook themselves and kind of have fun and just discard it. But there's that small percentage when something does happen and when something does come through. And it can be, honestly, it can be incredibly dangerous. So The Ouija board is not an evil thing in and of itself. You know, when you first get one, there's a couple more things I want to cover about this, and I guess this I should probably, I've done other shows on Ouija boards, so you'll have to check them out. But in a nutshell, the Ouija board outside of a box is no more dangerous than a Homer Simpson placemat for your kid's cereal bowl. I mean, it's just a piece of material printed with a design, and that in and of itself has no ability, no power. By virtue of it being printed doesn't mean it's automatically evil. It's just simply a design. When it's used, then it can become an open vessel. It can become a conduit of sorts. And my old saying is, you should never open a portal you don't know how to close. And just moving a planchette over goodbye is not closing a session. It's not closing that conduit. It's just, you're just basically leaving and putting it away. However, things can and may still come through that. So that's where Ouija boards become a problem, is that people don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to actually close a session. They don't know that there's a process in setting the whole environment for it. But, it's a whole different thing from an experienced medium who knows how to do this, knows the pitfalls, knows how to prepare, knows how to protect themselves, to a room full of kids or even adults that have no idea what they're doing. And just saying, hey, something come through. Well, something might come through, and you may not want what came through to be through. And then you got to deal with perhaps getting it back. So just be very careful. If you're going to play with Ouija boards, do the research, look into it. How can you successfully utilize this tool in a way that won't cause you problems? Now, there are a lot of low energies out there. These are beings that may once have been people. They may never have been people, but they may be spiteful of the living for whatever reason. And they're just waiting. They're just waiting for some way to come through and to attach to someone. So that's the problem with the blind channel, is when you have almost no defense at that point if you haven't prepared properly, because you're already saying, use my energy, because you are the conduit. Whoever's touching that planchette is the conduit for that energy to move through. So it's already coming through you. There's no barrier anymore. So that's the pitfalls. That's the danger. And again, it can be done successfully and safely. It's just, unfortunately, they don't come with real good instructions. So take some time and learn it. Now, I've had other people say, well, we were playing around with the Ouija board, but it's just one we made. And I'm here to tell you that the ones you make are even more powerful than the ones you can ever buy from a store. And the reason why, and this goes back to a lot of esoteric traditions, a lot of occult traditions. You don't go to a Diagon Alley and buy a wand. You fashion a wand. You create the wand. And as you're creating it, you're doing it with intention. You're putting things into this that will resonate with your energy. So that's what makes the wand powerful. There is no Ollivander's wand store, or whatever that store was called in Harry Potter. So when you fashion something for the purpose of, spiritual contact, you are imbuing it with your energy from the start. So you are creating something that is automatically tuned to you. And, the chances of it being a successful, or successfully good or successfully bad are multiplied because you have fashioned the board yourself. It doesn't matter if it's made on the back of a pizza box with a Sharpie. If you've made it, it becomes more attuned and becomes much more potent, and therein lies the danger, So buying them out of the box doesn't mean that they're the real thing and everything else is just a cheap knockoff. It's quite the opposite. The ones that you make are the real potent ones. Not that the ones from a box can't be, but you have to attune it. You have to, probably work with it for a while before anything's going to happen. But there's a better chance of one you have made that will be much more successful in making some kind of contact with something. But again, blind channels, I think personally, not a good idea if you don't know what you're doing. So that's my soapbox. That's my rant. Take it or leave it. Again, I'm not trying to cast a shadow over it, and just by virtue of it being a Ouija board is bad. Well, no, it's just, yeah, it's like a little bit of knowledge can be dangerous. So, right, like, you don't need to teach someone how to build a hand grenade. You just need to show them how to pull a pin, and so a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's my soapbox for the Ouija board. All right, let's get to the next one. Hope you don't mind, but I just want you to be aware of the potential pitfalls of such things. So the next one's coming out of New Jersey. Forget about it. I don't know if Jersey's kind of the same as New York, right? I guess. I don't know. I'm geographically challenged. Like I said, I've been to New York. Great town. Had a great time. Did a lot of stupid things there, but had a good time. All right, so this one's New Jersey. Last night, my hubby and I were standing around in the kitchen, and I was facing him, talking to him, and it was around 6 p.m. in the evening, and all of a sudden, this bright light was shining in my eyes. I couldn't see his face anymore. It was there for a split second and then burst into little lights, making a crackling and popping noise. It was like the flash on a camera, only brighter. He had the same experience from where he was standing. When we checked the lights in the kitchen and the rest of the downstairs of the house, there was nothing blown out. The light was blinding. It was so bright. Last Friday, our new ceiling fan stopped working for absolutely no reason. Last week, our new puppy was fixed on our headboard, just barking at something that apparently only he could see. He was barking and growling at the headboard, but there was nothing that I could see there. And when I put him on the floor, he just ran back to the spot on the bed and just kept growling and barking at something he was seeing. This is around 3 p.m., and our bedroom is on the second floor, so it wasn't anything outside, and we don't have a neighbor next to us. About a month ago, we're watching Taps. So this is an older story. It's 2007. And one of our printers, which is no longer in use, turned on and printed out a blank page. The computer was not on, and no one was near it. That was really eerie. We had other experiences in the past. A few years ago, the stereo turning on for no reason in the middle of the night, and I'm really becoming concerned that there's activity in our house. I'd say it sounds like you're right. Get yourself some smudging. I would agree. You can always smudge. You can always cleanse, ladies and gentlemen. If you feel things are getting into your house, you don't have to be a pro to sage. You don't have to be, you just have to get some and walk through the house and just, making bold, strong statements that, you need to leave if you're dark and evil. Or you need to leave no matter what. It depends on how you feel about the whole thing. If you want a good spirit in your house, cool. If you want them all out, I understand. But, you can do it. And at the very least, it'll probably knock down a lot of energy for a while and give you some breathing room if things are getting real intense. But the only thing is that it may come back even more potent when it can. But if it may buy you some time to get a hold of somebody to help you get rid of something if the saging by itself doesn't work. And again, if you're going to sage, start in one end of the house. On the other end of the house, leave a window cracked or something and work your way towards it, going through every nook and cranny of the house with the smoke, knowing, pushing out the cleansing and casting and saying it's, it needs to leave, and work your way slowly towards that open window and end there. And then close the window when you're done. So, otherwise it's like trying to clean a sink with no drain. You're just pushing dirt around, and it can still knock the energy down for a while, but you really haven't pushed anything out. And maybe it's mostly symbolic. I don't know. I mean, because we hear stories all the time of spirits moving through walls and moving through doors and moving through things, but perhaps that's more of a symbolic thing. And that symbology is really powerful and potent. So it doesn't hurt to leave a little window cracked, even if it's in the winter, and work your way towards it. And when you're done, close it. Say a prayer, say some kind of incantation, whatever you believe in. use that to help, close the session and seal it with that good energy. So, but yeah, that's tough. Next one's coming out of Florida. And no calls. Okay. Just checking. I'm really dry, so I'm sorry. I'm going to sip on my water a bunch. All right. So, oh, hey, Deb. Good to see you. Kylie Victoria. She says, when my ex lived with me, the toilet would gargle without being touched. Lights would flicker or randomly turn on and off. The computer would turn on and start playing music, etc., until I smudged. Very cool. Very cool. That kind of activity can be really unnerving, and really, hey, Deb, really, you just got to kind of judge from your gut. You ever get that feeling, or you ever hear that saying, the gut feeling, you got to trust your gut feeling. And I believe that's really true in the case of hauntings. Now, some people just don't want things to be awry at all. They just want their 3 dimensions in furniture that doesn't move unless somebody's moving it. But if it doesn't feel negative, then it may not be as urgent. But if it's getting real active, yeah, smudging is great. And honestly, if you don't really believe in the spirituality of smudging, even knowing the science behind it, that it is a very powerful agent, even in killing bacteria and things in the air. So it's a healthy thing to do. So if it depends on how you want to spin it. Maybe you believe in it, maybe your spouse doesn't, and you don't want to explain the spirituality to them because for whatever reason, just tell them it's for health reasons. It's a natural antibacterial agent, and it's true. So it's not deceptive. That is a truth. It may not be a complete truth, but I can always start a marriage counseling business after this, I guess. How to fool your spouse. Yeah, that's might not be the best advice, but I'm just saying. Sometimes people have very different ideas, even in relationships. You don't always share everything. I mean, Mrs. Portal and I are very different in many, many ways, but for some reason that just seems to work, and that's cool. But she's not really into the same things that I am on many, many levels, but she's still sticking by me, so can't hardly fault that. All right, so let's go to Florida and see what's going on. I do squint. I squint all the time, and like I said, I was out in the yard working on the yard today and burning brush and stuff, and my eyes are just all funky from the smoke. So it's even a little worse tonight. But yeah, I'm always squinting. I have glasses. I could wear glasses, but my vision is I'm mostly nearsighted. But if my eyes are fatigued at all, I still gotta squint, and maybe it's partly habit too. So, but yeah, I have glasses. They're out in the other room. They don't really, I don't know, the distance the monitors are isn't quite where my glasses work. It kind of helps, but not really. So it's easier just to lean in a little bit and squint. But my eyes are working. All right, we all know that graveyards are haunted in one form or another. But they also have a variety of sprites. It says sprites. I don't know if they mean spirits or sprites. But we'll keep reading and find out. And this happened when I was about 15 years old. My sister and I were going to hang out with a bunch of friends. Mind that we have always known about this place, but we're told to never, ever go there. Ever. Our friends picked us up and we go to the graveyard and we stay for quite a while, and it starts to get dark. As it was, this place has a sense of foreboding. Well, here we are having a blast, and when weird things start happening, some rocks start flying at us. We looked at our friends and told them to stop and that they weren't funny, and they said it wasn't them. So we went on our little tour, and I happened across a grave that is like from the 1700s. Wow, that had to be the neatest thing I'd ever seen. And I'm also studying this grave, and I hear my sister and my friend Chris scream bloody murder. So with a flashlight in hand, I start running to see what's going on, and I stop dead in my tracks when I look to see what made them scream. There, in a big oak tree, was a person hanging with the most horrible look on his face. You could see every detail of him from the noose to his shoes, which were really very old. And then, as we were going to the car to leave, at this point we had had enough, a huge fog passed over the car. And this was one of the most terrifying nights of my life. I'll tell more about this place because as a teen, I didn't learn very well about what not to do. And now I don't go near that place at all. Last time I was there, my husband decided to be cute and prove to me that it runs from the road and starts... What? My husband... Okay, let me reread that sentence because that doesn't make sense to me. Last time I was there, my husband decided to be cute and prove to me that it runs from the road. I don't know what that means. It starts on the main road, and I already knew this. He takes me through, and I'm freaking out. I keep feeling something bad is going to happen. And the whole time I'm telling him, he's like, no, we're fine. Well, we got stuck in some deep mud, so I start praying my little heart out and saying the Psalms, crying my eyes out the whole time. Now karma gets him. As I'm starting to see little clouds, he's outside of the truck and trying to get us out when he jumps back and freaking out. What's wrong? I asked. And his response was, something grabbed me. He learned that night that there was something wrong with that place. We don't even talk about it anymore, and I hope everyone likes the story. As far as the graveyard, its ghosts were treated like really bad when they were alive, so I guess that's why they linger still. I suppose so. I don't think happy ghosts do a lot of haunting. Just saying. All right, the next one is coming out of California, ladies and gentlemen. And this one, let's see what's going on here. Just checking everything. Not missing anything, am I? All right, so California. Last time I went to visit my family in southern Wisconsin, but it says California. But it's talking about southern Wisconsin, so let's take the journey, ladies and gentlemen. My siblings and I are all late to mid-20s and are married, so every chance we get, we gather at my mom's house for the weekend and just catch each other up with what's going on in our lives. And usually on the first night of our get-togethers, it starts after dinner until 5 or 6 in the morning, and we all just chat and play video games, Guitar Hero and the Wii, of course. What interests us most, we're sharing real ghost stories, either what we've experienced or the experiences of close friends. This is the real story I shared. For years, I've had nightmares right up until that weekend, flashbacks of me waking up to bright lights, finding Mom arguing with Dad. My younger brother Tony, who was 1 or 2 years old, was crying his head off, and seeing Dad holding a rifle. Judging from my short arms and legs, I was too young to attend school and too old to drink a bottle, and I believe I was about 3 or 4 years old. And then I remember Mom carried Tony to the kitchen to get him a bottle, and he was still crying his head off, and Mom quickly got him a bottle because she wanted him to quiet down. The entire house was dark. The only source of light was coming from my parents' room. I followed my mom to the dark kitchen. I was in tears because my parents were arguing, and Dad soon joined the rest of us in the kitchen, still carrying his rifle. It was humid California night, and after finishing Tony's bottle, I remember he was still swarming in Mom's arms because the heat bothered him, and Dad held his rifle to the window and scanned the driveway. What was he looking for? I looked towards Dad's blue Volvo station wagon sitting in the driveway, and something caught my eye. I saw a person sitting behind the driver's seat. I couldn't see who it was, but I can see the outline of the person clearly because it was like a shadow that was darker than all of its surroundings. I was scared that the person might hurt my family, and I looked at Dad to see if he noticed the person behind the wheel, and Dad didn't see anything because his eyes continued to scan the driveway. He was a Vietnam War veteran, so the entire time it was as if he was at war, concealing behind the curtains and peeking outside to check on something. And I pointed out the figure to him. Daddy, who's in the car? He looked toward the car. Who? I don't see anyone. Dad had told Mom of what I saw, and he opened the front door to get a better look while Mom, Tony, and I were standing by the driveway. Dad decided he wanted a better look at who it was and walked towards the station wagon. The figure sat quietly in the car. It was as if Dad was looking right through the figure because he didn't see anyone. All of a sudden, the figure opened its eyes, and I saw the pair of flaming red eyes looking toward the front door, our direction. Dad was standing next to the car, unaware of anything that was going on, and I remember Tony pointing to the car. He saw it too. I see red eyes, Mommy, I said to Mom, and all of a sudden the headlights on the station wagon turned on, and that made my dad jump. He ran towards the house, and we all ran to the bedroom. The next thing I knew, it was morning. I went outside and saw my father washing his car. Maggots were leaking from the bottom of the car, and they were coming from the engine. I never told a single soul of that nightmare until that day. I looked over at Tony, his jaw dropped, and he turned white, and he said, "You know what? I've always thought that was my nightmare. I remember seeing those red eyes in Dad's Volvo station wagon. It wasn't a dream." Bits of details came back from the other siblings. Older sister said the night she remembered my parents burst out to their room that night and slept on the floor, and she heard the car horn honking throughout the night and not knowing what was going on because Mom and Dad had told them to keep quiet. My sister also recalls thousands of maggots coming from the car, and it covered almost the entire driveway. The next morning, I asked Mom about the situation. At first, she didn't want to talk about it. She kept saying it's for our protection. It's bad to know too much, and Tony begged her. Mom said she's afraid to talk about it, but only remembered minor details. She remembered prior to that night, Dad had dreams of his ancestors warning him about a demon, which was already a bad omen, and he never told Mom about it. That was their argument. Mom also said that night, Tony and I pointed out that we saw red eyes, but she and Dad didn't see anything until the car headlights came on, and then they realized something was sitting in the car. Finally, 20 years after the incident, the nightmare came to a conclusion. I'm no longer bothered by it. My father passed away before this was brought up, and Mom still wants to keep hush about it. But as long as I know that it wasn't a dream. Wow. That is horribly intense. And ladies and gentlemen, that's when you're dealing with demonic things, that's a whole nother kind of problem. A haunting is one thing, and they can certainly be aggressive. A poltergeist is another thing. But demonic things, it's just something with hate, just hate, and vile and just darkness. It's not like you could reason with them. It's not like you could change their mind. It's just demonic things are just that. It seems like they're just keyed on the destruction of anything good and decent. And demonic hauntings are relentless. Now they don't start out relentless. They usually start out incredibly subtle, bad moods, dark feelings, the feeling that suddenly you don't know if you can trust your friends, and everything seems to be closing in, and it creates an isolation, and the isolation's the worst thing because, like any kind of abusive relationship, the abuser wants the abused to be isolated, without the support of other people. So these demonic things create these barriers and these walls, and cause mistrust and doubt, and then it's just a downhill battle. So not that it can't be solved. Obviously it can be, but they're just such horrible things. I don't understand, how anything could be so void of compassion, but these are terrible, terrible things. Just my 2 cents on it, but yeah, that's horrible. I certainly believe that family experienced something. And I don't know, I wish I knew more about what happened then, because to have that experience is, of course, incredibly intense. The maggots and all of that. And, again, I can't vouch for the story. I have no idea. It could just be a fabrication. It really could be. But the narrative is not a lot different from a lot of other narratives that I've heard that are apparently well documented demon cases. And it's just terrible. And especially with manifestations like the maggots and stuff, that's an incredibly powerful attack. And it's, it's meant to unnerve whatever it's targeting. And apparently it was targeting the dad for whatever reason. So I don't know, horrible stuff, but I hope it ended well, however it ended. Yeah. Yeesh. All right. So the next one, ladies and gentlemen, is coming from New York. I picked a lot of long stories tonight. This one's really long. Hope you got some time, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you don't mind spending a little time with me while I read through this book. Yeah, I don't, and ladies and gentlemen, I don't pre-read these at all. I never do. And I think the reason why is because, I probably should. Being a show host, I should probably read these things, through before I do the shows. But I kind of enjoy the fact that I'm hearing these stories the same time as you are. And it also causes me to think more after I get done reading them. And it's like, I examine every story a little bit in my head, like, well, what do you think of that? And I've many times gotten into reading a story and I'm like, nah, that's a bunch of crap. And I'll say as much, that I don't think that that's true. It doesn't happen a whole lot because most of the times the stories, if they are fabrications, they're not written in such an extreme way that I would go, oh, they're really written subtly and using usually a lot of examples that are pretty famous and popular. So it's not easy to tell, but there's some stories that are just like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I'm sure that they're fabrications. But I don't know. Maybe I should read them beforehand, but I like the whole discovery along with you guys and, just to see what's going on out there. So, but it sometimes runs into problems too when they get to this, those really weird words. And I think I do okay pronouncing a lot of the words, but if it's anything in Iceland, forget about it. I can't pronounce them. It's just such a strange, vocabulary to me that I don't know how all those weird letters are supposed to sound. So I probably beat the hell out of them. And sometimes I beat the hell out of English too. So it's been known to happen. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I should have muted, but I'm here and at it again. So let's go to New York and see what the hell's going on in New York, ladies and gentlemen. My story begins when I was 17. And my family moved into a brand new house. My baby sister had just been born a few months prior, so mom and dad wanted a bigger place. Mom and stepdad, rather. And they never took my brother. He was 15 at the time, and I house hunting. So the first time I set foot in the house was the day we actually moved in. My mother had bragged about how great the deal was that they got on the place. That's usually a bad sign. If it's real cheap, might be a reason. Well, the moment I stepped across the threshold, I understood why. The house felt very unwelcoming, and I immediately got the sense that something really horrible had happened there once. During the first weeks of living there, I got more psychic input and pieced together what was going on in that place. A bit of the house layout, the front entrance of the house opens out on the right into a large living room, dining room combo. And on the left, there's a hallway. And straight ahead is a sliding door leading to a sunken den and a Florida room that was added on later. I don't know what a Florida room is, but it sounds like it's a cool room. I don't know. Not the original house, not original to the house. And at the far end of the den is the doorway to the garage, and down the hallway back by the front door is the entrance to the kitchen, the bathroom, and my sister's room on the right. The entrances to my room, the basement, and beyond it, my parents' room, are on the left side. The The hall ends in a mirrored wall that would have been fashionable in the 60s or early 70s. So I guess by brand new they meant used, but new to them, okay? The end of the hallway has a bad feeling, and the mirror is creepy to say the least. Ladies and gentlemen, mirrors are mystical, can be very mystical objects. So, um, they're considered gateways by a lot of different belief systems, and can be portals and stuff. So, you know, yeah, I don't know about a mirrored wall. That would be creepy. If you're sitting in the living room, you can see down the hallway, and it feels like you're being watched. Oftentimes, I would be scared to look down the hallway for fear of actually seeing something there. Now, to tell you about the really creepy part of the house, the basement. It is large, running the full length of the house, and when going down the stairs, to the right is a short side with some storage and the washer and dryer, and to the left of the stairs is the long side of the basement, which stretches back and ends in a part with a lower ceiling. There are some random shelves left by previous owners and nothing else in this part. My whole family would generally avoid this whole part of the basement, but I never discussed with them why. From that part of the basement, I always got the feeling of being watched by an angry spirit. It was a man, and there were also strange stains on the floor at the very furthest end by the wall where the ceiling gets low. The house has multiple spirits, and I've never seen them, but only heard one of them. And I once heard a little girl sneeze from the corner of the den by the garage door. Why would a spirit sneeze? Why would it need to sneeze? I don't know. That's odd to me, I guess. As a little girl, the house had multiple spirits. Blah blah blah. Came to the conclusion. I once heard a little girl sneeze from the corner of the den by the garage door, and I came to the conclusion that this is where the little girl used to try and hide from the man or escape from him out the garage door. I get a feeling of fear and sadness from the ghost girl, as if the man abused her and eventually killed her. I think in the spot at the end of the first floor hallway where it feels very bad. That's sad. The little girl ghost seems to be mostly in the den, and I cannot tell if she was his daughter or not. The man seems to mostly be in the basement. The other strange thing is that I can also feel fear there along with the man's anger and hatred. When I focused on it, it felt like multiple dogs, and I got a flash in my mind of a double row of kennels stacked one on top of the other along the far wall. I believe that the man kept dogs locked up there, and then he tortured and killed them. What a treasure. I can feel multiple frightened and confused spirits who can sense me as well. And it feels like they're wordlessly pleading for help. I felt sickened the day it dawned on me that this might be the source of the odd stains on the basement floor. I never told anyone about these feelings and visions and left the house after only 8 months for my own place. I did not think about it again until recently. My baby sister, who is now grown, needed help taking care of my ill stepfather, so I found myself staying in the house with her for the first time in 2 decades. The house still has the same feeling to it, and one night we were talking about how it felt odd and that parts of the house felt very bad. And I never told my sister anything about my experiences in the house, so I got a chill when my sister mentioned the man in the basement. I got wide-eyed and gasped, and this made her gasp too. She pointed at me and exclaimed, "You can see him too." I nodded, now thoroughly creeped out, and we proceeded to compare notes on our experiences. I should mention here that most of the women in my family have some level of psychic sensitivity. My great-grandmother and grandmother, my mom, myself, my baby sister, all were and are sensitive. I'm also a Wiccan and have trained myself to develop my abilities. My sister has no interest in such development, but she is naturally very sensitive and intuitive. I often wondered why my mother could not feel the house as well, and I think she did, but ignored it as she was never really comfortable with her psychic abilities. As my sister and I talked further, I noticed that things she was doing instinctively to keep the male spirit at bay. The bad spot in the hallway is right in front of her bedroom door, yet my sister's room feels very safe and good. I think this is partly because my mother watches over her. Our mother died when I was 20 and my sister 3. And it is also because of my sister herself. She keeps a large white candle lit in her room whenever she's home. And she also burns sage several times a week, and she does not know why, besides she likes it. No one told her this. This might be a good ghost remedy either. She decided it on her own. She also mentioned that growing up, she spent a lot of time in the Florida room and always felt safe there. This made sense because it had been added on to the house later on and probably after whatever had happened there. I was pleased to learn of my sister's habit and assured her that she was doing the right things to keep the bad spirit at bay. Also, she's just very strong-willed and is not a person easily messed with. She next told me of her experience with the man in the basement, and that was when she was a little girl. She hated the basement. As she got older and started doing laundry, she remembers often being by the washer and dryer and being terrified to turn around because she could feel the man behind her just a few feet away, under the stairs, watching her. When she'd finished whatever she was doing, she would race back up the stairs, avoiding looking in that direction of the feeling. She also could feel the little girl ghost, but not the dogs, though she sensed that something unspeakable had happened in the basement. We got further confirmation when her boyfriend and his friend stayed over another night to keep her company while my stepfather was in the hospital, and she did not tell her partner and his friend about the house for fear they wouldn't want to stay. Still, they both felt strongly the bad feeling in the house. The friend was supposed to be sleeping on the couch in the den, but he felt so freaked out that he went out for some liquor and sat on the backyard most of the night drinking and smoking, refusing to come back in the house and sleep until the sun began to rise. I'm not sure how to go about finding out if anything actually did happen in the house. If anybody has any ideas of how to look things up, such as crimes committed in the house, I'd appreciate input here. I'd start with the public library or, law enforcement maybe. My sister and I also have talked more recently about trying to psychically cleanse the house, but we hesitate to. My sister's energy has sort of put the bad man ghost in his place, and he doesn't bother her now. We also have an if it ain't broke, don't fix it attitude towards him, and we both feel clearly that he has a very strong attachment to the house, so an attempt to oust the spirit might do more harm than good. Also, I read somewhere that if that you can distract a ghost by spilling birdseed or rice on the floor where the haunting is, that the ghost cannot resist counting the grains. I don't know about that. Maybe, I don't know. That's weird. It's not like it's OCD ghost time, but we'll lose count and start over repeatedly. We did this in the basement, and it seems to have helped lessen the angry, threatening behavior in the house. Who knew ghosts had OCD? That's funny. My sister plans to eventually sell the house, at which point we may have a priest come in and try a cleansing. If anyone has an opinion on that, please feel free to share. We're open to suggestions. My sister would feel guilty selling the house in its current state to some unsuspecting family. Well, yeah, this is an older story, so it's not really relevant right now, but that does sound like a pretty wild situation in that house. I don't know. I don't know about the spilling rice on the floor, I guess. I don't know. Maybe. I don't understand how that would work or why it would work, but why does a ghost feel compelled to count grains of anything? I don't know. I know I sure as hell wouldn't if I was a ghost. I'd be like, well, you made a mess. I don't know. I guess there's a lot I don't know, though, ladies and gentlemen. I don't pretend to be an expert. I don't, it's just when you hear silly things like that, it just seems really hard to wrap your head around it. At least it does for me. All right, how are we doing on time? 55 minutes. I guess we did darn well. This one's pretty quick. Let me see how the next one is. No, that one's not too bad either. I guess I'll read these two. We'll go for I got two more stories pulled up, and we've been at it for 55 minutes, but I can stretch it out if you guys are willing to stick with me here. All right, this is coming from Illinois. It's a real quick one. A couple of years ago, me and some friends decided to visit the most haunted cemetery in Chicagoland. It's funny, cemeteries are coming up tonight. I swear to God, I just pull these things up at random, but it's funny that there always seems to be a pattern. In the Chicagoland area, Bachelor's Grove. Oh yeah, Bachelor's Grove is a really famous cemetery. It is indeed a very haunted place. We brought a camera with us to take some pictures with the hope of capturing a few spooky things. The 5 of us wandered around for about an hour or two in the pitch dark of night without a flashlight on hand. We weren't supposed to be there since the cemetery closes before sundown, and we didn't want the authorities to find any activity out of the cemetery. We all felt a lot of energy surrounding us. It was a depressing sight to see, though. Bachelor's Grove has been abandoned for years, and there seems to have been a lot of disrespect done to the place. There was writing on some of the tombstones and garbage on the grounds of what's left for these souls to rest in peace on. Even though we didn't see anything, the energy we felt alone was freaky enough. We took a couple pictures and headed out to a long dark path down the road. As we almost exit the entrance, we all felt and heard something behind us, so a friend decided to take a picture. He got him developed and discovered a misty ghost face with a grave that had been vandalized by a couple of punks a few years back. A bright lit orb was also caught right behind me as we headed out the cemetery that night. I guess what we all felt and heard that night wasn't just our imagination playing tricks after all. Oh, wow, that's not a bad capture. I'll put that on screen for you guys. That's pretty cool. Let's see. All right. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There's the picture of the gravestone in this weird mist. That is a good capture. And quite frankly, this is an old film camera, so it's not as prone to all the trickery. And as you can see, the pixelization of the film grain, that's film grain that you're seeing. It's not actually digital pixels, but the mist matches that grain. So if it is a hoax, it was really well done. But again, a short little ghost story on the internet, in the middle of nowhere on the internet. I don't know why anybody would bother trying to hoax that. So this is what they captured. I wonder what this is up here. It's probably just something in the far distance, but very curious. Now there's another one. And this is, there's the orb they're talking about. But again, that's a lens flare. That's this is the flashlight apparently, or the flash reflecting off of something and causing a secondary flare. So I don't think that's paranormal at all. You can see the shoes are reflecting as well. So I don't think this one is paranormal, but I think this one is a pretty good capture. Could very likely be a spiritual presence. There's many people that believe that the film cameras are still the way to go in terms of capturing spirits, that the digital may not be as adept at picking it up as the film is. And I guess it stands to reason, because a digital is just a quick sensor reading, whereas the film captures whatever light hit it. So I don't know. For most cases, they're pretty interchangeable, but in situations like this, maybe a film camera is the way to go. I think it's getting harder and harder to find film, though, and that becomes the problem. But I think that's a pretty good capture. So, well done, you guys. All right, so let me close that one, and we'll get to the last one, and we'll close the night out. And Travis saw the video. I'm just trying to read the chat here, see what I've been missing. Have I been missing anything? All right, let's get to this one. This one's a little bit not too long. It's like a medium long story. This one's coming out of Georgia, ladies and gentlemen. This will be the last story for tonight. This is an actual first experience that I remember when I was younger. My mom and I went to town, did a bit of shopping, and got dinner on our way home. And it was still light out, and we were sitting in the living room with my stepdad eating. And I heard the front door open, and no, and say no so much slam. But when you shut that door, it rattled the tin roof. You could tell it was open and shut, and I heard it. And I heard my sister say, "Mom, I'm home." And I thought it was strange because she was going to college in Bruton, Alabama, I guess, AL. She lived in the dorms up there, so she rarely came home to visit unless she had free time. I ran to the other room to see her, and the front door was closed and locked, and I told my mom and dad what I had heard, and my mom said that she was at work until 9 that night and that she was going out with some of her girlfriends afterwards, so she wasn't expected home for the weekend. My dad looked at my mom with this look on his face. I thought he didn't believe me, but I didn't understand why. After all, he's the one who has most of the experiences in our family. So we watched some television and go to bed, and the next morning I woke up and my sister was there. I sat down with my mom and she told me that she had to go get her at like 2 or 3 that morning. I inquired as to why, and she told me that one of her friends was in an accident and they were driving down a road that has a lot of bends in it and on their way to a party. My sister and 2 of the girls were in one car and her other friend was in the Jeep following behind them. And they looked back and the Jeep wasn't behind them and they were concerned, so they turned back and the girl's Jeep was smashed into a tree and started to catch fire. The girl was conscious, but her legs were pinned by the steering wheel, and one of the girls broke out the back window and climbed in, trying to pull her free. And at this point, my sister took the car to the store down the road to call 911. When she got back, the entire Jeep was engulfed in the flames, and she didn't see anyone. She called out to her friends. They had moved back to the edge of the woods to get away from the fire, and my sister asked where their friend was. They couldn't get her out in time, and she burned to death. When she told me all of this, I freaked out because I had a feeling about my sister, and only hours later, her and her friends went through this traumatic experience. My mom told me that while we were in town and my dad was home, he had seen a figure walk across the doorway, and he didn't realize it was my sister until I said that I had heard her. That is why he gave my mom that look. It took me a while to realize that I had a significant experience, and I think from there on out, I was open to it, and I still am. Well, there you have it. Well, that's really, really, really tragic. God, that would have to just be the most anguishing experience to not be able to help your friend. What a horrible thing. Oh, man, that's a mental image I didn't ever need, but tragic things happen, ladies and gentlemen. But I love you all. I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday. Thank you so much for being here. Please follow us on Twitter at Paranormal Portal, PORTL. I'd love to see more followers over there. I got 66 people, but it's been 66 for about a month now. So if you got a Twitter, hey, come by and give me some validation. But definitely follow us on Facebook. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do subscribe. It helps boost my ego. The sub counts go up, and it's like, yes. But anyway, guys, love you all. And remember, we do have our podcast launching next Monday. So you can find that wherever you get your podcast. Just look for the Paranormal Portal. I'm not sure what time of day, but if you check by our Facebook page, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, when I find it's out there, I will be sure to, yell from the roofs as loudly as I can. But I hope you guys will help support us in our podcasting venture as well. Let me see. What else was I going to say? Oh, tomorrow night, Jerry Klein is going to be our guest here on the Portal, and I'm really looking forward to that. Jerry's a great guy. Again, he's a Bigfoot researcher. experience, had some amazing experiences, and we're going to have him on the show tomorrow. And again, special thanks to Duke for helping to arrange that. That's going to be excellent. I'm really looking forward to it. So that'll be tomorrow night here on the Paranormal Portal at 7 p.m. Pacific time. But I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. So, all right, guys, love you, and sweet dreams.